its M135i, BMW redefined the performance benchmark for fast, smallish cars. Now it's gone and bolted the same engine into the smaller, lighter, stiffer 2 Series coupe body and called it the M235i. All this Bavarian attention has clearly irked VW because this, after all, really is its manner. So the new Golf R has a 300 horsepower turbo motor and some very positive reviews behind it. Let's hope it's better than the last R and the one before that. Anyone who moans about the M3 becoming too complicated should sit up and listen right now. This 1530 kilogram coupe has 326 horsepower, a 6-speed manual gearbox and an optional locking rear differential. It's basically an E36 M3 with more power, better steering and a better chassis. The suspension is a little firmer than the 135i's, and this is a car I've been running for a few months that has lots of cosmetic performance parts fitted. They're a bit brash, but then this car's personality is a bit brash. Oh, and it has 332 foot-pounds of torque, where the Golf has 280. It also runs sticky Michelin Pilot Supersport rubber. The Golf has 4 exhaust tips. This is a bit excessive. The rest of the body is subtle as hell really, but it has 4 exhausts, like a Ferrari. What else can you say about a 4-wheel drive Golf with a heap of power? It's not that exciting to look at, but it's a very high quality item, and this one is also fitted with a 6-speed manual gearbox. Sticky rubber, however, is not standard. Meantime, we shall discuss the history of the Golf GTI in 1.3 minutes. Let's start off. Gen 1, great car, created a revolution in hot hatchbacks. Mark 2, another great car, 8-valve, 16-valve, arguments about which was better. I always preferred the 16-valve. Mark 3, got a bit fat, not so clever. Mark 4, bleh. Mark 5, wow, a return to form. Mark 6, pretty damn great. Latest one, fantastic car. Lighter, faster, more responsive. This is the R version. So, have we got something that's appreciably faster and better to drive? Or are we a bit marketing led? For me, in the Golf 6, the GTI remained the nicer, more rounded package. But this new version, well, there's a strong suspicion that this is the car to have. 300 horsepower, Haldex 4-wheel drive, masses of performance, usability, that Golf imageless presentation that they do so well. What's it like to drive? Is it actually good fun? Because there's always a suspicion with fast Golfs that they're rather more competent than they are fun. So, can we have some fun? I think you can. So this car is fitted with dynamic dampers. It's got 3 settings for pretty much everything. You've got a comfort, a normal and a sport. The most surprising aspect of this car for me is that when I put the chassis into sport, it doesn't fall to pieces. It doesn't get too firm. This car has a lovely chassis, supremely talented, I would say. The balance of damping, of comfort, of control, and yet not feeling too firm is superbly judged. Superbly judged. And also, all 3 of the damper settings you can use. So in comfort, it's more comfortable than a sort of normal Golf on big alloys. In the medium setting, it's got great control, but doesn't lose too much comfort. And when you hit the sport setting, normally I expect things just to fall apart and become a shambles, unless you're at Hockenheim. But I've been driving the car in sport, and it's been really quite good. So, throttle response is great. I've driven this engine in the S3 and been really impressed. It has got potentially something a little bit extra in this application. I don't know why. It just seems to be that little bit sharper at the top end. I presume the calibration's absolutely identical. Pulling away there at about 3,500 RPM, it just responds so nicely to the throttle, and it's worth taking it out beyond 6.5 up to 7,000 RPM because it keeps revving. So you've got the best of both worlds. You've got torque and you've got the ability to rev the car right out as well. So what more could you ask? And also in this sport setting, you've got quite a nice induction noise coming through the cabin as well. Almost sounds 5-cylinder. There's some fakery going on, so I'm not going to complain if someone wants to pretend that they're an Audi Quattro. Does me quite nicely. But I've not answered that question about fun, have I? And the news is good, guys. This thing's a flipping riot. It doesn't have all that horrid understeer on the road that you associate with Haldex. It feels quite neutral. The front axle of the car is just amazing. You can really lean on it. So it soaks up the bumps, and you get this sensation of the suppleness allowing the tyre to really claw into the tarmac and pull out grip. It just finds grip in places. It's the best example I've encountered this year of a car that gives the driver so much confidence that they can really grab it by the horns. So inevitably, you do drive it quite quickly. This one is a 6-speed manual. It's a really, really impressive gearbox. I suspect it's even faster and crazier with the DSG. It probably has a mini GTR feel in that state, but like this, gear change is good, a little bit artificial. It doesn't have much life to it, the gear shift. Seating position is great, nice and low. Wheels in the right place, wheel is a good shape. It's got the flat bottom, which is a bit silly, but there we go. Seat is grippy, supportive, just what I want it to be. It's got this horrible sort of carbon effect fabric, which I'm sure is optional and looks tacky and cheap. Other than that, it's a Golf cabin. This is not a cheap car, but then, crikey, is it capable? Is it capable? Yes, I hate to say it, Mr. BMW M235i, you're going to have to be really, really good, not only to match just how capable this car is, but to offer more fun. The M235i's history is much shorter. There is the M235i. Well, there's the M135i, which has created a massive stir and huge forum arguments about whether it's as great as people say it is. I've been a big supporter because I think it's a really exciting package. I know it's not perfect, but the idea of having a lovely turbocharged straight six, providing all that performance in such a practical package for so little money was always exciting to me, remains so. The M235i is smaller, cuter, more agile, has, I think, better supported rear axle, slightly firmer suspension all round, and the same amount of performance. That's a pretty compelling package. Furthermore, we have the complication of this being a car I'm running at the moment, and this has had some performance goodies added to it, some of which are brilliant, some of which are rather tasteless. It has a sticker down the side of it. That might have to go soon. It has a steering wheel with dials and shift lights, which is lovely. It's got Alcantara and it's got a fancy carbon gear lever. None of that really matters to me, but it has a locking differential, £2,000's worth in the back axle, and that adds another dimension to the car. So what do we end up with? Well, do we end up with a baby M3? I'm not sure we do, because it still doesn't feel quite as connected and aggressive as an M car, but it's mighty impressive. It's agile, it's very fast. To me, the Golf has more initial torque, but the BMW seems to reward more at the top end. And furthermore, on noise, some of which is admittedly a bit fake in this BMW, the BMW wins hand down. There's a luxury, there's an expensiveness to the sound of the BMW that just cannot be denied. This car's running a 245 section Michelin Supersport at the back, so it's got loads of mechanical grip. So you'd be in dreamland if you think you're coming out of every single corner fully sideways. You're not. But this car always feels rear driven. To me, the steering feels less corrupted, and the rear axle feels like it's there, and the angle of the car, the attitude of the car can be controlled by how brave you are and how much gas you want to throw at it. And I love that feeling when it comes out of a corner, of feeling the mass all go to the rear of the car, a bit of squat under the suspension. I think it's a great feeling, and it's not available in any other package, and it needs to be celebrated. So technically, I think the Golf is the more competent handling car. That really is a freak, that thing. It seems to just have more expensive suspension. Its dampers seem more sophisticated. It will soak up road surfaces that the BMW finds a little more tricky, although this car has more composure than the M135i, definitely. Is it night and day? No, it's not. And I'd say in the fun stakes, I think the BMW reverses the trend. I think this car is an absolute hoot. The Golf is great fun, but there's a sense of naughtiness about this M235i that's completely compelling. It really is. To the extent that I've observed two other people driving this car since I've had it, and both of them have driven it like a bit of a wally. They've just got in it and had loads of fun, and I think it has that kind of character. It has a louder sports exhaust, this one, that's been fitted. It's got carbon end pipes, which are a bit bling for me, but it makes a slightly louder noise. The baffles are all a bit smaller inside. It's got slightly larger disc brakes, but I don't think they make any difference at all. They're fake drilled discs. I don't really understand that either. I wouldn't bother with them. It's a really, really compelling package. In fact, they're two great cars. I really can't pick them apart. The Golf is technically more competent, as I've said. the BMW has a more effervescent character. What does it come down to? I don't know. Maybe we should go to a circuit and throw them around a bit and see how they behave in extremes and whether that influences my decision. At the moment, though, I see them as road cars, so maybe we should just go to a circuit to gratuitously show them doing stuff that isn't really legal on the public highway. The track was wet and horrid and then a bit drier and then wet again, but then this is England. Neither of these is a track car, but you could actually have great fun in either at a track day and they wouldn't fall to pieces. The four-wheel drive Golf has easily the most amusing version of the Haldex four-wheel drive system I've tried. It wants to understeer a bit, but you can overcome that and it's very, very fast. Brakes are powerful and didn't fade too badly, and the motor pulls at the top end more convincingly than the BMW's. The shorter gearing helps too. It has a sense of fun about it I've not experienced in a Golf before. But the 235i has that unfair advantage of being rear-wheel drive. In many respects, it isn't as composed as the Golf, the damping's less sophisticated and the gearing is too long and the brakes are a little more prone to fade, but the steering isn't corrupted by drive shafts, and of course you can switch off all the systems and enjoy the fruits of that optional locking differential. In terms of personality, this is a BMW from the old school and I really, really like it that way. The new R is the best fast Golf to date. It's a fabulous all-conditions car and for road use it has the better chassis of the two cars. And you could also argue that its motor is the more effective of the pair. And I didn't expect to enjoy driving it so much either. It's the better car of the two, so why do I have the BMW? Because it suits what I want from a small performance car. A rear drive chassis, 6 manual gears and 6 cylinder noises. Perfection, without the silly stickers.